Hey,
Hey, how are you?
you're the first one here. At least I have one person to talk to.
That's right. And guess what? If it's just me, then I'm taking the fear of failure.
No problem. We're gonna do both in any case.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
So how are you?
Well, I'm pretty good actually. I had Sabrina do 3 waveform optimizings for my pain in the butt like yesterday.
Pain in the butt.
Yeah, and it's been actually quite a bit better. It's been hardly any pain since she did that. So that's pretty cool.
Good. Now,
Yeah.
did she do on Zoom with you?
No, she just we talked for a little bit, I think by phone, and then she just did the waveforms and then sent them to me. And that worked out fine. So
Is
that was
she back in Phoenix?
yeah, she's back in Phoenix and
Okay.
yeah, yeah, things are moving on. It's got a coach training sale just earlier, 797. That's always good.
Yes,
And
it is.
and $1,000 for waveform optimizing for Joaz is good. And yeah, some other stuff coming in from China. Thinks the revenue is coming in. We'll see how we do with this last newsletter. I don't know. Here comes Veronique. Aloha. You're on mute there. Which is quite okay if you want to stay on mute. That's fine. Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
aloha, Tom. I'm still getting myself together. I was unexpectedly doing something else on the road, but
No problem.
I'm there with you soon.
Glad to have
I
you.
already can listen.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Veronique. It's Trish.
Aloha, Trish. So good to see
Hello.
you.
Good to hear you and somewhat see you.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you in your new place, Veronique?
That's a whole story. No, there's first a lot of other steps that needs to happen.
Okay,
No.
okay.
Same space, same space.
So to be continued.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll wait a couple more minutes and see if we get anybody else, then we can start.
Oh.
Ah, here is Dan. Okay. Hi, Dan. Welcome.
Hello.
Glad you could join us. So we'll just wait a couple more minutes and then we can get started.
And Tom, just a question for you. Where are you going to be posting the video? Are you doing it on YouTube?
Yeah, we'll have it on YouTube and I'll send an email out to everybody on the list so that
Okay.
everybody can get access to it. And then we'll start shifting over to using Telegram for all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. So good evening and welcome to this presentation. We're actually going to have two presentations this evening, one on overcoming the fear of failure and one on learning how to prepare yourself to learn the in technique if you haven't learned it yet, so that if you're using it to resolve trauma, that you can do it successfully without giving up. So I think we're going to start with the one with overcoming the trauma, because that'll be relevant to the second one, which will be using the in technique to overcome the traumas, if we can call them that cause the fear of failure. So I'm going to fire up a PowerPoint here. There we go. Okay, so welcome to this presentation on TraumaWay. This is the name of our program for overcoming post-traumatic stress. And this is an orientation video for people who are about to learn the basic technique for resolving the traumas that are the foundation of PTSD. And this is why we call it TraumaWay, because we're going to make the trauma go away. And the orientation is so that you know what to expect as you begin to learn the in technique, which is this powerful technique that I used to cure myself of PTSD back in 1993 after I got shot in the chest by a deranged stranger and miraculously didn't die from it. So in any case, here we go. So this presentation is an orientation to learning the in technique. And the idea is to watch this video before watching the video about the in technique, which is the second video in our new revised freedom practice course that is just under development and will be available soon. So this is because learning the in technique teaches you how to feel and resolve the energy patterns of emotional pain and trauma in a simpler, faster, and easier way than you've ever seen before. And without knowing what to expect, you wouldn't believe that it was possible to completely conquer PTSD, because the general consensus of the psychological community is that PTSD is incurable. But it's not only possible, it's actually much easier than you would think. And why is it useful to have this orientation? It's because the in technique will be guiding you through having experiences that you have very likely never had before. That's because when we're very young, we get emotionally overwhelmed lots and lots of times. Nobody likes that. In fact, we hate it. And we rapidly learn to get as far away from the emotional, painful sensations as we can. And we do this before we even learn how to talk. This becomes a deeply conditioned way of being and leads to becoming very emotionally incompetent. This is the main reason that people are not good at handling their emotions. And because we learn to do this before we have language, we continue to do it throughout our life without even realizing that this is happening. Traditional therapy and coaching focus on the content of emotions. The problem is that emotions have both content and energy. But the energy of the emotion creates the sensations of it in and around our body, and it is the energy of the emotion that gives it life. If you don't know that this is happening, when you start to do the in technique, you can mistakenly stop doing it for fear of being overwhelmed by that energy. In fact, that happened to me a couple of times with clients who'd been deeply traumatized, Vietnam veterans and others. And this is why I always now give people an orientation so they know what to expect, which is exactly what we're doing here. It turns out that it's vastly easier than what people think it will be. It is the 2 or 3-year-old inside of you that fears being overwhelmed by the emotional pain. But you aren't 2 or 3 anymore. You have an enormous capacity to feel things. The pain is just a sensation. These ultraumatic pains have 2 parts to them. In fact, every emotion has 2 parts to it. They all both have energy and content. The energy causes a sensation that you've been attempting to avoid feeling. In the past, when you have felt it, it has triggered the memories of the traumatic event or events that caused it. This has caused you to do your best to suppress it and not feel it at all, if possible. Here's a chart that shows the difference between a small child's capacity to feel and the underutilization of an adult's huge capacity to feel that results in such suppression. So here you see on the left a little child, and their capacity to feel is the blue box that the child is sitting on. And obviously, it's much, much less than the capacity to feel of the adult, which over on the right is this huge, tall blue column or tower that's about as tall as the guy. But the actual utilization of this huge capacity to feel is not really that great. In fact, it's very little, as you can see on the right, the red box down at the bottom. Although there's an enormous innate capacity to feel, there's only a small amount of it that's being utilized. And that's because of this deeply conditioned habit of suppressing and avoiding emotional pain that pretty much everyone has.
So Tom, can I ask a question on that?
Of course, yes.
With the maroon colored box that says the amount of your innate capacity to feel that you actually do use, is that based on the spindle cells, or is that really based on the conditioned suppression, would you say?
It's probably both, because, and on just the next slide or two, I'm going to show you about the spindle cells that you're mentioning. But there's 2 things going on. One is the hardware is not as significant when we're little. We have less of the kind of cells that process emotional experiences. So there's less capacity. But we also have this deeply conditioned habit of suppressing and avoiding the feelings, which we develop pre-verbally, even before we learn how to talk. So it's a kind of combination of both not enough hardware and interfered with software, if you will.
Mhm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, so if I hear you correctly, is that the difference between the 2 boxes is that even for the little child, there is a certain amount of innate capacity to feel that the child does have, but the amount that they actually do use is less than that in both instances, adult and child.
Correct. And it's dramatically different in the adult because you got a lifetime of accumulation of emotional stress, but very, very much deeply conditioned suppression and avoidance function going on. So even though you've got the spindle cells to process this stuff, you're pretty much not using them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So the science behind this is that we have certain brain cells called spindle cells, the very thing you were just mentioning. And that these are the ones we use for processing emotions. When you're just a baby, we have very limited number of spindle cells, so our resulting capacity to feel emotions is limited. Now, here's a chart comparing two brains. The brain on the top is the brain of a 71-year-old person, and the red areas are the areas where he has the spindle cells. And the number of spindle cells are recorded over on the right. On the right hemisphere, there's 47,670 or 870, something like that. And on the left side, it's 35,000. Yeah, it's a little bit smallish type, so it's hard to read. For the child, for the baby, this is a baby that's only a few months old, like let's see, what is it? I have it here someplace. 7-month-old infant. And we can see that it's only 7,000, a little over 7,000 in one hemisphere, a little over 5,000 in the other hemisphere, almost 6. And so there's a greatly less actual hardware capacity to feel with much less spindle cells in the child's brain. Apparently, we just get more spindle cells as we grow older, and that's why there's lots more of them in the 71-year-old. So the result is that you are deeply conditioned to avoid emotional pain. This is the underlying reason that the psychological community thinks that PTSD is incurable. But it's not incurable. It is just a deeply conditioned response. Is it possible to overcome this deep conditioning? The answer is yes, but it helps a lot to know what's really going on. Now, to be successful with doing the in technique, there's a way to do it that works. It requires doing two things. The first is to do your best to keep your focus of attention right into the middle of the strongest part of the sensation. The second thing you do is that you feel like if you feel like you're about to be overwhelmed, you back away from the painful feeling just a little bit. It's like getting in a hot air balloon or a helicopter or something and going up a bit. Now, everyone has trauma, and it's just a matter of how much, like what kind of degree of trauma people have. And as you learn and practice the in technique, you'll discover that it's only the 2 or 3-year-old inside of you that is afraid of getting emotionally overwhelmed. It turns out to be much, much easier than you think. So I'd like to do some little demos to give you some experience of doing the in technique. And then we'll have some questions. So I'm going to stop the screen share and come back to our view where we can see everybody, the gallery view. There we go. So I'd like a volunteer, somebody who'd like to get rid of a little bit of trauma, and we'll go through the in technique. I'll guide you through it, and we'll use this as an opportunity to do a little bit cleaning up of your inner emotional landscape. So who would like to give that a try? Veronique is raising her hand. That'd be fine. Okay, very good. So you got some particular thing that is a little bit traumatic that you can recall?
It's kind of, I honestly, at the moment, I could be that the volcano just stopped here. So at the moment, I feel just so, I'm not sure if it's something I did yesterday for healing my shoulder, otherwise with using a combination, but I've heard it's super foggy here right now. So I'm a little bit brain dead.
It's okay. If you have something that you can recall, that's good. If you can't recall, we can always...
I think I'm not sure if this is something I could do, because kind of it feels like being emotionally overwhelmed right now with things I'm working on, and to yeah, answer all of it,
Hmm.
to keep. Yeah.
Any topic in particular that's causing you to feel that way?
Um, it probably has to do with some documents and papers I'm figuring out now. It has to do legally with taxes and governments.
Oh, I
I've
can
always had that. When I have to read documents which are government things, I kind of easily blank out.
I can relate to that. I
Like, what the
can-
heck? I don't speak this language.
Yeah, completely understand.
Mm,
Okay, so if you think about having to do that paperwork with the government documents, tax documents and stuff, if you just think about that, do you feel a kind of unsettledness, a kind of discomfort?
yeah, right away. It's huge. It's my yeah, above my navel, below my navel, it's kind of my whole belly.
Solar plexus area, yeah. Yeah.
More strongly solar plexus, but it's the whole belly.
Oh, belly. Okay. All right. So the fact that you feel something there means there's some energy there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there were no energy, you wouldn't feel anything.
Right.
Mm. So the in technique is a way of completing incomplete experiences, things that have just been too much for us in the past, where the energy was too much to complete when it happened. And I can certainly relate to that with these government legal documents.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think many people can. So as you notice that field of energy in your belly, notice that there's a place in the field where the energy feels stronger than elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a kind of central strongest point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very simple. The instruction is very simple. What you do is you close your eyes and you allow yourself to notice that central strongest part of the energy field. And when you do that, you're allowing yourself to feel something that you've mainly been attempting to avoid feeling. And so at first, it may feel actually stronger than normal. And you're nodding your head, so I think you're.
Yeah, it feels stronger, and yeah, I had a nice sigh.
Yeah. So
Mm.
as you allow yourself to notice it, and you just allow it to be at whatever strength it is, it's actually not stronger than normal. What's happening is you're just allowing yourself to actually feel what's really there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as you allow yourself to feel what's really there, what happens is you experience it seemingly as stronger because you've been attempting to avoid feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah. So as you just allow yourself to gently notice the central strongest part of the energy field, what will gradually happen is it will gradually soften and become less intense. And when it does, let me know.
Yeah, at the moment it moved so below my navel and also a little bit in my throat. Below the navel is more strong.
Okay, so let's go to the one below the navel. We go wherever the energy feels the strongest. And the thing about this technique is it's actually very effortless. We don't try to make anything go away. We don't try to change anything. It's just a simple matter of noticing the central strongest part of the energy field. When it gets a bit softer, you'll notice that it's softer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Already
It's-
softer?
pretty soft right now.
Okay, good. So when it gets softer, we do one more thing, which is you bring your awareness even closer to whatever's left of the energy. And by doing that, that will have a tendency to make it seem stronger again, not because it is stronger, but just because we're closer to it. Kind of like clicking in for a closer view on Google Maps or something like that. Now, what has happened with a few people that I've worked with in the past is when we've started to do this, the sensation of the trauma was so strong, and the person was so used to attempting to avoid it, that in a few cases, they just got up and walked away. They just didn't want to do it. In other cases, said, I don't want to do this, and they stopped. And this was because they didn't realize that they have an adult's capacity to feel, just like I showed on the chart, but they're only utilizing like this very small amount of that capacity and feeling like that's all they can do. So to have the orientation and understand that, in fact, you have an enormous capacity to feel things, particularly as an adult, and that it's basically very, very underutilized because we have this deep conditioning to suppress and avoid it and get as far away from it as possible. So once you understand that it's actually okay to allow yourself to feel it, then you can actually handle whatever level of intensity is there pretty much every time. And so as you allow yourself to feel it, it will soften. Then you get a little closer to it, and will soften some more. And you just keep getting closer and having it soften. And you do that again and again until you go to get closer to it, and there's nothing left to get closer to because you've completed the incomplete experience of the energy that's been held there. And when it's complete, you don't have any more sensation. It just feels like it kind of opens up, and kind of like the fog burning off in the morning sun, it just sort of dissipates. And then it's just this kind of expansive, clear quietness.
I think it's gone. It might be that still a little residue is left, but I think it's gone.
So I'm muscle testing for you. Yeah, you got it. It's good.
All
It's
right.
great. Great. So now, as you allow yourself to just notice that area of your body, the belly area there, any sensation left at all? No, great.
Probably not really. Not as it was very intense, and now
Yeah.
it
And what
seems to be gone.
What about the energy you were feeling in the throat? What's the status of that?
No.
Also gone. Very
Yeah.
good. Superb.
Yay. Hooray. Happy.
Great job. Yeah, the wonderful thing about the in technique is it's actually very easy.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of having this orientation that it's completely okay to allow yourself to feel it. And look what happens when you feel it. When you
Mm.
feel it, it gets completed. And when it's
Yeah.
completed, it's not there anymore, which is terrific.
Yeah. I just kind of repeat what you said before, that if you do the technique, how important it is just to kind of sit back while feeling it the strongest possible in the center of the energy,
Right. Exactly right.
and
Great.
not to push it in any way.
Exactly. Great job.
Yeah.
You've really got it. Right.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, well, you've been doing this for a while, so it's easy to guide you.
Right.
Very
Yeah.
good. Great. Any questions or comments regarding what we just did?
Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Dan. I have a question. I've done this in technique. Must be doing something incorrectly, but I've done it hundreds of times for one energy that I'm feeling, and it ends up in like my jaw and my teeth, and it gets so tight that I can't like the more I try to go in and be with it, like the tighter it gets, and I don't know what to do from there.
Sure, sure. Well, good that you brought it up. Let's see if we can figure it out.
Okay.
We have a particular chart in this work that's called the Where to Start chart, which is kind of has a little rhyme to it, but it's has 5 levels. The first level is the level of consciousness or awareness, which is where the pure awareness techniques work. Okay, both the in and out work there. The second level is the energetic level, which is the level at which some of these technologies, we have one called the Quantum Energy Optimizer, which is a device that picks up energy from the body and electronically inverts it and sends it to the body. There's also a technique for doing that called waveform optimizing that does the same thing, but we have the body do it rather than a machine do it because we've already got the machine. So that's another possibility for resolving things like this. And what I could do is to suggest to you that you might want to have a waveform optimizing session to see if we could resolve this particular energy in that way, because sometimes that's more precise and effective than just doing the in or out techniques.
Yeah, that sounds great. I saw your email, and I definitely intend to take advantage of the discount and that session. So I'll get in touch.
That sounds great. I think that's probably a really good way to go. And there's an even better approach for resolving this problem for Dan. No, that's an optimal way to go. Let's go with that.
Okay.
Excellent. Great. Look forward to working with you on that. That'll be terrific.
Yeah. You're always showing up when I need you, so thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. That's good. All right. Great. Trish, any comments, questions?
No, I feel just always learn something new each time you teach it. So just I kind of did my own in technique when you were walking Veronique through it.
Good. Very good. Very good. Okay, great. Well, I think this probably concludes the purpose of this video, which is to just provide this orientation so that when people are learning the in technique, they know what's going to be happening. You know? And so it's like prepare themselves to go ahead and allow the feeling of these sensations, realizing that you have an adult's capacity to feel this stuff now. You're not a 2 or 3-year-old anymore. And so it's really not that difficult. So very good. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. What I'm going to do is to just end this particular call, and then you can log back in and we'll start a new one and we'll do the fear of failure. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.